You have a guy that's 6'2", probably about 220, muscular, and another guy that's probably about 5'9", probably weighs about 160 pounds. So he knew who to punch.
Well, I mean,
It is what it is.
Well, I'm not a stunt guy.
Michael Jai White is the most dangerous man in Hollywood, and the evidence is carved into the bones of professional fighters who made the mistake of stepping into a ring with him.
And I said, retired you? He says, yeah. You broke my collarbone, 3 of my ribs, and fractured my hip bone.
A stranger on a train had recognized him, not for blockbuster roles or red carpet appearances, but for ending a professional fighter's career with injuries so severe he never competed again.
I will kill you.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of times when you make that mental switch, I don't care what you do.
Most people spend years learning to flip that mental switch from ordinary person to killer. Michael Jai White does it in seconds, and Hollywood has been walking on eggshells around him ever since. So let's get into it. Brooklyn, 1967. While other kids played with action figures, 7-year-old Michael Jai White was already training to become one. His first major starring role and breakout performance was in the 1995 HBO film Tyson as heavyweight boxer Mike Tyson. But long before Hollywood discovered him, the streets had already forged him into something far more dangerous than any character he would ever portray. White's martial arts journey began in childhood, but it wasn't the sanitized dojo experience most people imagine. Michael himself has amassed countless trophies, awards, and grand championship honors from open point system to inter-federational tournaments both at home and abroad throughout his 20-plus years as a martial artist. The U.S. Open, North American JKA, World Knockdown Free Sparring Champion. These weren't participation trophies. They were battle scars in human form.
There was a time where, guess I'm fighting my own demons, like I didn't care who was, across from me. I was just going, because, I did a lot of different competitions.
On his own since 14, fighting for money before he could legally drive. While teenagers worried about prom dates, White was stepping into rings where bare knuckle was normal, and trophies meant nothing compared to the cash that kept him alive. He gave those trophies away to cute girls because survival mattered more than recognition. The transformation from troubled teenager to human weapon wasn't accidental. A muscle-bound behemoth with surprising speed and agility, White discovered something terrifying about himself during those early years. He was naturally gifted at inflicting damage. Not movie choreography, real damage. The kind that ends careers and changes lives.
At the time that a professional kickboxer sued my ass, I fought him in a ring. And he successfully tried to sue me.
A professional kickboxer, someone trained to absorb punishment for a living, sued him. The lawsuit claimed White knew some kind of secret art, as if his ability to destroy trained fighters required mystical explanation rather than simple, brutal reality. $8,000 in legal fees when money was scarce. The price of being too dangerous for your own good.
That resonated with me. That came back when this dude was, I know what I do with that. And I went like this. I was like, oh, too close. And I went like this. Just like this. Like no stronger than this. I just kind of went like that. But this hand hit him in the nose. Hit him right in the face.
A light strike to the face. Just enough to create distance. The Jamaican man with the aggressive posture and the incomprehensible threats went quiet immediately. White drove away, but the lesson crystallized. Even his restrained violence carried consequences that most people couldn't comprehend. The streets had created a weapon. Hollywood was about to discover what that meant. 1997 marked a historic moment in cinema. He went on to portray Al Simmons in the 1997 film Spawn, making him the first African American to portray a major comic book superhero in a major motion picture. Spawn wasn't just Michael Jai White's breakout role. It was Hollywood's first glimpse into what they had actually hired. The casting directors saw an impressive physique and martial arts credentials. They had no idea they were working with someone who had literally retired professional fighters. While other actors needed stunt coordinators and safety protocols, White brought something unprecedented to set: the ability to actually do everything his character was supposed to be capable of.
So he knew who to punch.
Well, I mean,
It is what it is.
Well, I'm not a stunt guy.
Steven Seagal, notorious for injuring stuntmen and co-stars, made a calculated decision during their fight scenes. This is because Steven Seagal spoke badly about Jai White in an interview and literally laughed at his martial arts skills. But on set, his behavior told a different story. Seagal, who regularly cracks people and leaves stuntmen nursing real injuries, suddenly became cautious around one specific co-star. The film industry runs on unspoken hierarchies of power and fear. Seagal had built his reputation on being the most dangerous man on any set, until he met someone genuinely more dangerous. White's casual dismissal says everything. "I'm not a stunt guy." The implication hangs heavy. Stuntmen get hurt. Actors playing tough guys get respect through intimidation. But what happens when you encounter someone who doesn't need to play anything? Exit Wounds debuted at #1 at the box office, grossing $19 million at North American theaters from Friday through Sunday. It was considered a surprise hit movie, but the real story wasn't the box office numbers. It was watching two supposed tough guys navigate each other with the careful respect of predators sharing territory.
But he cracks people, and Tony Jaa cracks people.
Hollywood's action stars operated in a world of manufactured danger, controlled violence, choreographed intensity. White brought something else entirely: the unpredictable threat of someone who had never learned to separate performance from reality. His fight scenes carried a weight that made seasoned professionals uncomfortable.
I had forgotten how small Bruce Lee was.
Yeah, see, the thing is, I made a mistake.
What does he weigh, like 160 pounds or something?
No, 132.
132, there you go.
When White made his infamous Bruce Lee comments, the martial arts community erupted in outrage. But his clinical assessment revealed something more disturbing than disrespect. It showed how he analyzed human targets: weight, reach, structural vulnerabilities. Does anyone think Michael Jai White is wrong for showing disrespect towards the martial arts community, saying that he could beat Bruce Lee because of a size advantage? The controversy missed the point entirely. White wasn't being disrespectful. He was being accurate. And that accuracy came from somewhere Hollywood didn't want to examine too closely. The industry had created its first black superhero, but they had also unleashed something they couldn't control: a man who had never learned the difference between movie violence and the real thing. Steven Seagal built his career on a simple formula: be the most dangerous man in the room. For decades it worked. Stuntmen feared him. Co-stars respected him. Directors enabled him. Remember White's infamous DJ Vlad interview from 2023? The action movie star burst out in anger at Seagal, claiming the Aikido martial arts icon tried to hire him 3 times for the film On Deadly Ground. But the real story wasn't about casting disputes. It was about what happened when Hollywood's manufactured tough guy met the genuine article.
Steven Seagal hits the shit out of people. That's a unique situation.
Okay, so you did how many Steven Seagal movies?
Like 3?
3.
3 projects with Steven Seagal. One soup commercial for Nissan.
3 projects together: a commercial for Cup of Noodles in Japan, and 2 films where Seagal's reputation for violence met its match. The pattern that had defined Seagal's career for decades, intimidating cast and crew through physical dominance, suddenly stopped working. Industry veterans who worked those sets remember the tension. Seagal, accustomed to being the apex predator, found himself carefully calibrating his behavior around someone who radiated a different kind of threat. White's presence changed the entire dynamic. Crew members noticed how conversations shifted when he entered rooms. The usual power games that defined Hollywood action sets simply evaporated.
Hell
Okay,
yeah.
so you saw someone get angry and see
Hell
this
yeah, yeah. A lot of times.
Did anyone ever punch him back?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Two words that carried decades of suppressed violence. Stuntmen and actors had endured Seagal's abuse for years, nursing injuries and swallowing pride because careers depended on compliance. But White's presence introduced a new variable into the equation: genuine consequence. For the first time in his career, Seagal was working with someone who might actually hit back. The psychological warfare was subtle but decisive. While Seagal relied on overt intimidation, the kind of aggressive posturing that worked on people afraid of losing their jobs, White operated from a position of genuine indifference to Seagal's reputation. Steven Seagal made a lot more enemies than friends over the years, with the martial artist and self-aggrandizing loon regularly rubbing folks the wrong way. But White represented something unprecedented. Someone completely unimpressed by the performance. The shift was noticeable to everyone on set. Seagal's trademark aggression, the verbal abuse and physical intimidation that had marked his career, simply didn't manifest during their scenes together. The man who built his reputation on being Hollywood's most dangerous actor suddenly found himself sharing scenes with someone who didn't need a reputation at all. Their professional relationship became a masterclass in predator psychology. Two apex hunters circling each other with the careful respect of creatures that recognized mutual lethality. The difference was fundamental. Seagal had spent decades performing danger. White had spent decades being dangerous. Hollywood trains actors to inhabit characters. Method acting, emotional preparation, psychological immersion, all techniques designed to blur the line between performer and performance. But Michael Jai White brought something to his roles that no acting coach could teach: the ability to genuinely become lethal on command.
You know, if you can make the switch that you say, okay, this is at stake and I must live, that somebody who's fighting you, they've already made that switch, they're deciding to attack you, you have to, in a second, make a mental switch: no, I will kill you.
The mental switch White describes isn't acting technique, it's survival psychology. The instantaneous transformation from civilian to killer that separates victims from survivors in life or death situations. While other action stars learned to fake intensity, White had mastered something infinitely more dangerous: the ability to become genuinely homicidal in seconds. During his home invasion, White didn't call police. He didn't negotiate. He didn't try to de-escalate. His mind immediately shifted to lethal calculation, plotting murder with the cold efficiency of someone who had crossed that mental threshold before. The intruder survived, but barely. White genuinely believed he had committed homicide when he left the room. This psychological capacity created unique challenges on film sets. Directors discovered they weren't working with a typical action star who needed motivation to access aggression. They were dealing with someone whose default response to conflict was systematic violence. The usual methods of pumping up actors for intense scenes, getting them emotionally worked up, pushing them to access anger, became dangerous when applied to someone who could actually flip that switch. The gas station incident with the Jamaican man revealed the hair-trigger nature of White's survival instincts. A verbal confrontation escalated in seconds. White's analysis was clinical. The man got too close, triggering defensive protocols. The light strike that followed wasn't measured movie choreography. It was automatic violence calibrated to neutralize a perceived threat. The fact that he describes it as restrained reveals how much damage he was capable of inflicting.
A lot of times when you make that mental switch, I don't care what you do. You could be like, I hope you have a good evening. And they know they're ready to kill me, right? It doesn't matter.
The predator recognition factor. Street-hardened individuals can immediately sense when someone has crossed the psychological barrier between civilization and violence. White's presence triggered that recognition in people who lived outside society's normal boundaries. Gang members, career criminals, professional fighters, all could recognize something in him that transcended performance. Stunt coordinators began treating White's fight scenes like live ammunition exercises. The usual practice of ramping up intensity during takes became potentially catastrophic when working with someone who didn't distinguish between choreographed violence and actual combat. His co-stars learned to watch his eyes during fight scenes, looking for signs that the switch had been activated. The basketball court memory that flashed through his mind during the gas station confrontation, watching a small man slice a larger opponent with a box cutter, demonstrated how White's brain processed threat assessment. He wasn't remembering movie scenes or television violence. He was drawing on real-world observations of how quickly situations turned lethal. His survival programming came from actual experience, not scriptwriter imagination. Set security began monitoring White differently than other actors, not because he was unstable or unpredictable, but because his stability was the problem. His calm, professional demeanor masked something that could activate without warning. Other actors might throw tantrums or become difficult. White might simply eliminate problems with mechanical efficiency. The line between Michael Jai White, the actor, and Michael Jai White, the weapon, had effectively disappeared. Hollywood had hired a performer but discovered they were working with someone who had weaponized their own psychology. Every role became a potential trigger. Every fight scene carried the risk of real violence. The industry's most dangerous man wasn't dangerous because of his physical skills. He was dangerous because his mind operated in territories where most people had never traveled. In an industry built on manufactured emotion and calculated risk, Michael Jai White represented something fundamentally uncontrollable: genuine lethality wrapped in professional courtesy. Michael Jai White's estimated net worth of $4 million reflects his extensive career in the entertainment industry. $4 million. For a man who broke Hollywood barriers, starred in blockbusters, and possessed skills that legitimate fighters respected, the number tells a darker story about the price of being genuinely dangerous in a business built on manufactured threats.
Man, it really bugged me to see that man get slapped and humiliated like that.
White's analysis of the Will Smith incident cut deeper than celebrity gossip. It exposed the calculated nature of all Hollywood violence, public and private. Smith chose his target based on perceived safety, just as the industry had chosen to contain rather than promote its most dangerous actor. The parallel wasn't accidental. While lesser talents commanded higher salaries, White found himself typecast not just by race, but by something more insidious: the industry's fear of what he actually represented. Michael Jai White starred as Spawn, the first black comic book superhero to hit the big screen, played Mike Tyson on TV, and has co-starred with Christian Bale, Steven Seagal, and Tyler Perry. But it took Black Dynamite, a madcap brilliant, Entertainment Weekly, spoof of 1970s blaxploitation action films to earn him the best reviews of his career. The message was clear: Hollywood would reward him for parody, not power. Black Dynamite's success came because it allowed audiences to laugh at exaggerated violence rather than confront the reality of what White could actually do. The industry preferred their dangerous black men cartoonish rather than genuinely threatening. White possessed something far more unsettling: legitimate lethality wrapped in professional courtesy. The industry knew how to handle manufactured tough guys. They had no template for managing someone who could actually deliver on the threats his characters made.
If I had said that amongst fighters, they'd completely understand. There's not one real fighter that would dispute what I said.
Right.
Because
The Bruce Lee controversy revealed Hollywood's deepest discomfort with White. When he made clinical assessments of fighting capability, 235 pounds versus 132 trained fighter versus actor, The industry reacted with moral outrage rather than factual analysis. They preferred their action heroes mythical rather than mathematical. White's brutal honesty about physical realities undermined the carefully constructed fantasies that drove box office profits. In the midst of the glamour and glitz of Hollywood, Michael Jai White has not been corrupted. He states that he is a martial artist first and that he maintains his authentic identity regardless of industry pressures. This authenticity became his greatest asset and his most significant liability. While other actors molded themselves into marketable personas, White remained something Hollywood couldn't fully control or understand. The entertainment industry runs on managed risk, calculated controversy, performative rebellion that ultimately serves corporate interests. Michael Jai White represented something fundamentally different: genuine danger in a business built on fake threats. His presence reminded everyone, from executives to co-stars to audiences, that real violence existed beyond the carefully choreographed versions they consumed for entertainment. In an industry that thrives on illusion, Michael Jai White remained stubbornly, dangerously real. That authenticity earned him respect from fighters, fear from phonies, and a career defined more by what he chose not to do than by what he accomplished on screen. Hollywood's most dangerous man stayed dangerous by never fully surrendering to Hollywood's need to domesticate its threats. The $4 million net worth wasn't failure. It was the price of refusing to compromise lethality for marketability. In a business where fake tough guys become millionaires, the genuine article remained exactly what he had always been: too dangerous for his own commercial good. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.